If they preemptively decided to question this man, why would they send in someone that Hasan admits to be someone that's cordial and nice to deal with?
True.
Maybe so they can try to get more damning admissions.
And they did get more damning admissions. He said he hated Donald Trump, but they didn't do anything with it. I think if they wanted to harass people at these ports of entry, or if they wanted to harass streamers, YouTubers, I think we wouldn't even have to. We wouldn't be questioning whether or not they're trying to do. Trump would literally be bragging about it. He would be on the news saying, yeah, I am harassing these people. Hell yeah, I'm keeping America safe by harassing. He would literally be bragging about it.
For those of you who don't know, I was detained by Customs and Border Patrol. I was tactically ascertained and engaged in a kinetic situation where I was kinetically moved into a detention center inside of the O'Hare Airport, which I will tell you all about in a second.
Even jokingly, I don't like the words. Like he just the detention center moved. Like he really makes it sound like he was arrested and wasn't just asked like, hey, sir, we're going to ask some questions. Can you come over here and step into this room where other people are in this room? But whatever.
Oh, man. It didn't pass the ocular pat down. I believe it was before the ocular pat down. It's the flight manifest that they get ahead of time. They knew who I was, and they were ready to receive me, let's just say. And it wasn't a very...
Like, Hasan provided absolutely zero evidence in his story. Like, even just from his own testimony, he doesn't provide any evidence that they knew who he was before he landed. There was absolutely no evidence given of literally any of that, but okay.
From welcome. So what's happening? Wait,
why am I going to watch 10 minutes of nothing? I'm a frog. As soon as this is over, I'm gonna listen to oral arguments. So you can watch your shit.
What's happening in Chicago? What the f was that? You know, this is only my second time coming back here. And the first time I was here for the DNC got kicked out. Second time I couldn't even enter, and everything will be fine. I was already worried that I was going to have issues coming into the country. I had joked about it already. So I was like, at least on the one side, like leaving the country of France will not be that big of a problem. And boy, was I wrong. Okay, boy, was I wrong. So I hit the triple Monty. I had like a generational run. There was massive traffic going in. The when you actually drive into the airport, the person that's dropping you off has to get a ticket at the gate. The ticket actually didn't work. Like, so we were stuck in traffic with like other cars behind us. Like my driver had to get out and be like, I get stopped by security after this old lady as well. The old lady with the bags of fluids, classic. She obviously was stopped. Okay. She had to get GSR swabbed, all the. And then, of course, I also got stopped, had to get GSR swabbed, all of this because I have electronics on me. And, you know, I stopped there. Generational 3-hour run at Charles de Gaulle. And then afterwards, I get into the flight and I'm like, all right, finally. The flight was actually fantastic. I slept the entire time. I slept like a goddamn baby, slept the entire time. Didn't even eat on the flight, which is crazy. There's never been a moment where I've, it was like, what, an 8-hour to 9-hour flight and I didn't even eat. I slept the entire time on the flight. Finally get into the United States of America. And at which point I'm like, all right, let's do it. I got global entry. This is going to be my first ever global entry entrance. Hopefully this will go smoothly. Okay. First time ever getting into global entry. I got it after my brother yelled at me over and over again, telling me you got to get global entry, whatever, right? I get to the global entry line and they're processing everybody expeditiously. You walk up, boom, immediately they take your photo of your face and you walk in and there's a customs person there, cop there, just basically waves you, okay? And they do that over and over again. It gets to me. Take a photo, boom, walk in instantly. The Customs and Border Patrol agent goes, step aside, sir. I was like, here we go. All right. She goes, step aside, sir. An agent will come and take you to another location. I was like, is that proper protocol? I was like, sometimes it happens. And I was like, okay. And I knew at that point, I was like, okay, I'm texting like family. I'm like, this is happening. I'm texting my manager. You know, I was basically I got Lolo on. I was like, listen, you know, I'm going in. All right. I'm freaking going in. Who knows how long this will take? Who knows what will happen? I had already heard like horror stories from people. There was like that one girl on TikTok that had talked about this. And I thought to myself, all right, it's done. It's happening to me as well. It is what it is. You know, M is real high. I'm about to say M is real high multiple times to get these guys off my back. So I'm waiting in the corner. This Latina ICE agent comes up.
Wait, what is that? M is real high? Is that like an Israeli thing? M is real high or whatever, or a Yiddish or Hebrew thing? Is it? Okay. He's dog posting. Great. Okay, based.
Picks me up, takes me to this detention center. I sit down, fluorescent light bulbs, the whole nine, okay? They have benches in the back of O'Hare Airport where there's like a detention area, okay? There's a detention area. I'm sitting there. There's like a bunch of terrified families, okay? There's an old lady in a wheelchair. There's like a mom and daughter behind me. There's some like random dude in front of me. And the way it works is there's a back door, right? And they take your passport. They go to the back door. You don't know what the hell's going on in there, but they sometimes come out and they just say someone's name with their passport in their hands and they go, you're clear to leave. Basically, when they bring you to the detention area, they, I guess, do some kind of surveillance on your background to figure out if you are going to get harassed even further or if this level of harassment is fine. Okay. And I asked and I looked.
Going to get harassed even further if this level of harassment. So what he's talking about is just a security screening. Yes. This is a security screening in an airport when you're coming from being back from being overseas. Yes, that is true. Okay.
Looked around at all the passports that people had to see if there were other American citizens. And lo and behold, at least in the area that I was at, I was the only American citizen. There was another guy that actually had an American passport as well because I asked the terrified family behind me.
So you weren't the only American.
I was like, hey guys, if you don't mind me asking, like, do you guys have an American passport? They were like, no. So it turns out it's just they're terrifying the shit out of mostly non-American citizens, okay? But apparently they're also interested in trying to terrify American citizens as well. So they're just like coming in and out. They get this lady in a wheelchair out of there, which I thought was so insane. Old lady in a wheelchair is in the ICE detention area, and they come out with their passport and they're like, here, you can leave. Okay, so that's one thing, right? Like, I've had secondary searches and stuff done to me before. I've had the I think it's called the quadruple S, like they put the SSSS on your boarding pass and you always get checked randomly when you get hit with that. Like, that's happened to me a lot in the past. I get GSR swabbed all the time. That stuff is normal. I've experienced that quite a bit. Okay, but this time I didn't even have the quadruple S on my boarding pass, so I was like, all right, it's probably fine. So I wait. Finally, this agent comes out, says, Hasan Piker. I'm like, that's me, coming with me. I'm like, oh brother, here we go. They take me to this back room, okay? And the back room is not great. The back room is designed in the most hostile way I've ever been inside of a room. The vibes are really...
If they're looking into the background after they asked to come to the side, it sounds like it's not based on his views, in my opinion.
Correct.
The initial stop, you mean?
That's right.
There. Everything is fluorescent light bulb, obviously. They had these 2 seats that were firmly planted into the ground, okay? They were complete metal. They were like tiny stools, very uncomfortable, with like braces on the side so you can handcuff someone to them, okay? And there was also a seat for like a lawyer. So I sat down on the lawyer seat on the corner to establish dominance because I've watched too many JCS interrogation videos and I knew I had to have command over the room. So I didn't sit in the cuck
That's so cringe.
chair. Instead, I sat in the lawyer chair and we got to talking. And let me tell you folks, the TikTokers that talked about being detained, they were right. It was an insane situation. So it's very obvious that they knew exactly who the fuck I was. It's very obvious that they knew how to like navigate the conversation. And it
Keep in mind, he says this over and over again, but he never, ever actually provides any proof or evidence of that. How did they know who you were? How do you know they knew who you were? He never actually provides any evidence of that, but okay.
It was a really, really interesting conversation that took place. It was very cordial. Okay. It was very cordial, which I thought it was strange how cordial it was. Because I've had run-ins with like cops in the past. I've had run-ins with feds in the past. Well, I guess the FBI was very cordial as well when I had some talks with them in the past. But overall, I was not expecting CBP agents to be cordial. I will say that. Okay. Now, having said
again, this is insulting because these are just ordinary Americans. These aren't like crazy like Hitler youth types or the SS shock troopers that are here to fight. Like, it's just ordinary Americans doing their job or whatever.
That the entire process is supposed to be intimidating. So it's like suck my cordial or whatever. Okay. I think they were being cordial because they wanted me to say something that was incriminating and say something that was enough to justify further detention from.
Yeah, that's all like speculation.
That point on.
But I want to know what they actually asked. That's the most important.
Let me tell you, they certainly did do that. So he knew exactly who the f I was, but he was basically like broaching the conversation in a way where it was like free flowing, where in the process of discovery, he was adding on additional talking points. He always made it seem as though he was asking certain things that after discovering in the process of that conversation, he would ask additional questions. So, he's like, oh, what are you doing in Chicago? And I was very revealing. I was like, well, I was in France because I want to take my family out for Mother's Day to France, but I had to come back early from France, even though today is technically Mother's Day, because I have a speaking engagement at University of Chicago. And he was like, oh, what kind of speaking engagement? He's like, I don't know, some like journalism school stuff. And he's like, oh, well, since you mentioned that, he kept saying, oh, well, since you mentioned that, what do you do as a job? And I was like, I'm a Twitch streamer. And he's like, well, since you mentioned that you were a Twitch streamer, what kind of things do you stream about? And at first I was like, do I just tell him I play video games? Because I don't think someone's going to believe me if I say I just play video games to him, right? So I was just like, yeah, I play video games, but I also do current events sometimes, drama, internet. And he's like, oh, do you talk about, since you mentioned that, you talk about the things that you talk about, do you talk about the news? And I was like, yeah, I talk about the news. And he kept saying, okay, so when you talk about the news, do you talk about the war? And I was like, what do you mean by that? He's like, do you talk about Trump? And that was the first.
Okay. So if that chronology is accurate, I'm going to say Hasan vindicated.
Okay.
I am not going to give this administration the benefit of the doubt that they're not stopping people who are opposed to Trump at all, because they're already doing it. And I have no reason to think that this is all just a good faith stop. They didn't, when they're asking these questions to get to Trump and the war, that they're not instituting a policy that they're instituting across the country, which is to deport people and to fuck with people on the basis of their First Amendment views and stated beliefs on Israel, Palestine, and to go after people who don't like Trump.
Like, this is all easily defeated by the fact that we know what Hasan's views are on all of this. We know that Hasan is pro-Hamas and supports Hezbollah. We know that Hasan fucking hates Israel and all that shit. We know that Hasan hates the current administration. But despite all of that, nothing happened. He was just released. There wasn't like any crazy additional detainment or an arrest or a seizure of his electronic. He just walked out. So what's going on? What?
They're already using AI to search people's history online to see if they're pro or anti-Israel. And so in no world am I going to give this government the benefit of the doubt. So all of you doubters who just trust the government and say, no big deal. I'm not telling you to trust Hasan, but don't trust Trump and his policies in the CBP when they're pushing him and asking him about stuff related to Trump. In no fucking world am I going to give the benefit of the doubt. And don't get mind fucked.
You don't have to give the benefit of the doubt. Just look and see what happens. Like if they fucking arrested him or some shit, or some crazy shit like that was going on, or they like seized his devices and everything because of the answers that he gave. Well, now we're in a very weird place. Hold on. You're seizing devices from an American citizen? For what purpose? Because he says that he supports even if he does support Hamas. Hold on. This is a U.S. citizen we're talking about. That would be really fucking weird. And I think that would be grounds for a whole bunch of criticism. But that's not what happened. Literally nothing happened. Nothing at all happened.
By your hatred over this man to now give Trump and his policies for the CBP the benefit of the doubt when they're
like there's no evidence that there's even a different policy enacted here at the CBP. This is everything so far that's been given is just super standard.
Doing this to dozens and dozens and dozens of people when there are documented cases of trying to use the immigration authorities to infringe on Americans, green card holders, other kinds of non-citizens' rights.
Do you think that Trump admin hasn't used fear tactics to try and get people to be quiet? I'm pretty sure this is what Pisco is saying is possible that it's happening here, but there's no evidence of it. I don't know how else to say that. Is it possible? I guess. Is it possible that Hasan is a fabrication of our imagination and we've never seen him in that many events because there's actually just, Big Boss, a clone that is representing him on, is possible, but there's no evidence of any of that being the case. There's zero evidence at all. And for a thing like this, more importantly, we'd expect there to be a lot of evidence. We would have expected a memo to go out changing how they do screenings at airports. We'd expect to hear a lot more people complaining about screenings at airports. We'd expect to hear people that got fired or left or whatever would talk about these. We'd expect there's so much evidence that we would expect. We would have expected a different result from Hasan's additional questionnaire. There's so many things that we would have expected to happen, and none of them happened. So
bullshit.
Time where I was like, what the is this question? Like, I literally straight up told him, I was like, why are you asking me this? I was like, what does this have to do with anything? And it was interesting because the dude asked so many insane questions, none of which is illegal, by the way. I just need you to understand. Nothing I've done online is illegal as of now, if that makes
Also, by the way, I'm not saying that it's illegal to ask questions about people's political views. I'm not saying
that's
that
good.
either.
He understands that. That's good.
I'm just saying it is indicative of a policy.
No, not yet. We haven't heard literally anything so far that would be indicative of anything improper happening whatsoever. This same questioning would have happened under Biden or anybody else. People ask you about your job. They'll ask you what you do. Like, this happens all the time.
Makes sense. Now, laws may change in the future and they might actually start prosecuting speech, which I do fear is the goal of this administration. But so far, everything I've done is fully protected under the First Amendment. Okay. And none of these questions are actually valid questions to ask. But I was entertaining it because, one, I didn't want to present it as being difficult because I didn't want to extend the detention. And two, I actually wanted to see how far I could take it.
So those two things are in direct contradiction to each other, but okay.
Maybe it was up of me to do that. Maybe it was not appropriate for me to do that, to play fast and loose with a person that has complete control over my life in that very moment. But I wanted to see what they were trying to take from this conversation. So,
all right, that's different as how is presented. How that quote was presented to me was, I'm trying to bait them into asking me questions about politics.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what he's saying, no? Wait, is he getting a different read of that now?
And that initially they had no interest in that. That's not what this quote says. This quote is saying, I'm being open and answering their questions and not closing off the conversation to see what they're going to ask me. Not that he's prompting the kinds of questions that they're trying to get at. So that's whoever said that to me is distorting what he's saying. He's saying I'm not answering, not that he's trying to provoke them into asking political questions. You understand that difference?
I mean, like Hasan literally said he could have just said he was a Twitch streamer who played video games. He probably could have just said that and they would have left it alone. But he volunteered way more information. Oh, no, I speak about politics. Like, this is all the stuff I do. But
whoever quoted that to me,
so,
he did say something like that. Just keep, okay, we'll see. Just that is not that.
Instead of just pleading the fifth, as I'm supposed to do in situations like this, I just kept giving him answers. And there were definitely areas where I was very revealing about my position, knowing full well that they know exactly what they're looking for. I saw no reason to hold back on certain things. So I said, I don't like Trump. And I was like, what are you going to do? It's protected by the First Amendment.
Like, why would you say that? You don't need to say that. I mean, if you want to say that, you can. But like, why? It's not like he had to give that away. Like, he's volunteering. He's literally volunteering information. Why? I don't know. Okay.
I don't like Trump. Yes, right? Like, I was like, I'm not fond of him. I don't like him. He said he was going to end the wars. He hasn't ended the wars. What the f is up with that, you know? And the guy actually was very sympathetic. The agent was very sympathetic. And I don't know if it was like a JCS style interrogation technique to come across as sympathetic to like invoke some kind of positive feelings out of me in an effort to like get me to reveal something maybe that'll trip me up, or because he just genuinely was sympathetic and he had the vibes of someone who was like, I don't know why I'm doing this, right? But he was like, listen, I'm Iraqi, so I know. And let me tell you, I do think that him being Iraqi played a big role in this.
Like, think about how ridiculously stupid this story is so far. So they knew who he was. They grabbed him out of the line just to get him in particular because they knew his political views. But then they threw a sympathetic Iraqi interrogator guy that is like sympathetic to his cause. To like, this is like so fucking retarded, dude. Oh my God.
Because if he wasn't, there was a lot of Redditor ass white boys that are at Customs and Border Patrol at O'Hare Airport. I saw them walk by. There was a dude who looked like he was like 25 max, but he was balding. And I knew.
Is this racial discrimination? Is that racist? Think about it.
Knew immediately if that is my agent, I'm screwed. I'm going to CCOT. This dude is going to literally cook me. So I got a little lucky. All right. I will admit. So basically, I think the reason why they sent the Iraqi CBP agent is because they bracket you into different categories. For me, they wanted to conduct an investigation about my involvement with Hamas and my involvement with the Houthis, or they suspected my involvement with Hezbollah. Straight up. That's literally what this conversation was about. And it's not even a joke. Like, they literally tried to get something out of me that I think they could use to basically detain me permanently, which is insane because there is no...
Just to be clear, that's not insane. That's totally fair. If my Border Patrol people were going to do anything, that's what I would want them to be doing. Make sure that people aren't like making contacts with terrorists and then coming back into my country with some like pro-terrorist shit. Not like pro-terrorist like Viewpoint, but like actual material support to terrorists. Yes, this is like exactly what I would want my Border Patrol people to be doing and checking for. No shit.
Direct connection or direct involvement. So we're talking, you know, I'm telling him like, oh, I'm Chicago. I'm going to be speaking there for the journalism school. I told him like, you know, I don't like Donald Trump. And I was like, so why are you guys doing this? And he's like, oh, it's just like routine. It's a routine process. I was like, it doesn't feel.
It's a routine process. It's a routine process to ask if you like Trump.
No, it's a routine process to ask somebody questions about the answers they give you as part of a fucking detention. This is, yes, they're always going to ask you questions about the information that you're giving them.
Bruh. Talk about Trump. It's a routine process to see if you talk about the war. That's routine. Yeah, it sounds routine in the sense that it's the policy of the United States to favor some views over other views and to give...
There's no... But no! It's directly contradicted by the evidence. If it was the fact that they favored some views over others, then you would have expected that Hasan giving the wrong answer would have led to something happening, but it didn't. Nothing happened. So it seems like that's not... that we have direct evidence to the contrary of that.
Harder time to people who harbor some views over other views. Hasan tweet verbatim, I have immense privilege and was willing to put myself at risk to investigate what their line of inquiry would look like. Again, that is saying that he was willing to answer the questions to see what they were getting at, not that he was specifically provoking their line of...
You have to answer the questions. No, his tweet is implying... When he says he was willing to put himself at risk, that's implying that he was willing. Willing means that you're willing to do something that you're not otherwise required to do. Like, what does that even mean? I was willing to take orders from customers for 6 hours. What do you mean willing to take orders? You have to. That's your job, motherfucker. You weren't willing to do it. You were required to do it. A requirement and a willingness to do things are two separate things. I don't even know why we're talking about this. This is a crazy abuse of language. What?
Of inquiry. It's actually the opposite of what you're suggesting, right? What Hasan is... The thing is, you guys all have haterade? How many of you are drinking haterade right now? Is it the same people who are going to maul about what I said about the judge?
What judge?
You need to think about this objectively, all right? This tweet is saying the opposite of what you're suggesting. It's saying, I'm answering to see what their line of questioning is.
You're not answering to see what their line of questioning is if you're required to do it. You have to. It doesn't matter if you're willing or not. What Hasan said, and it is in the story that he's given, Hasan implied that he answered more forthcomingly, I guess, than he had to, right? The idea that like, oh yeah, like I told them that I hated Trump, but you don't have to say shit like that. Why would you have to just say, oh, I cover a lot of politics stuff or whatever. And then if they want to pry more, they can. Oh, I don't know, I talk about elections and stuff, let them pry. Don't be like, do you cover politics? Yeah, I fucking hate Trump. Okay. Well, it's kind of weird that you would aggressively offer that, but.
Not to distort that line of questioning and make it more political. It's literally the opposite.
Okay, we just have a totally different read, I guess, of...
Right? There's one version of that, which is, because of my privilege, I'm going to provoke them to ask me stupid questions.
That's what it sounded like. That's what the implication of that tweet is.
Which would be wrong and distortive. The other is, I'm going to answer so that I open the conversation to see what they want to ask me.
You have to answer anyway, though. You don't have the option. What? Hasan is crashing on a cooking bad but not a hard right now after another video. Bro is so mad. Uh-oh, is he?
Take like that. But the issue is, he's the one only addressing Jewish exceptionalism in Palestinian emancipation discourse. That's not true.
Oh no.
That's not true at all.
Are they breaking up
already? I talk
already?
about that shit too. I say Zionism is a Jewish supremacist, like ethno-religious supremacist fascist ideology, but there is a issue when you are trying to make an argument in the Western world. There's an issue when you're trying to conduct an argument for Westerners. It's like saying, fuck the Israelism documentary. Every single person that participated with the Israelism documentary should suck my dick because they're Jewish exceptionalists. No, of course it's important to fucking try to fight back against multiple billions of dollars of goddamn propaganda. You have to force it.
They're opposite things. And he's clearly saying he wants to know the authentic line of questioning, not that he's trying to change the line of questioning to be inauthentic.
You absolutely do not have to answer about political beliefs. As a matter of fact, the agent should not ask about that. It's policy. Show me, link me where it's policy that they won't ask you questions at the border about like political stuff.
Authentic. And for those of you who can't read that meaning, whether he's being honest or not, but you think that that says the other, I just think that you're drinking too much haterade. Every day I drink the haterade. But thank you so much for the super chat. Don't your answers steer the line of question? I guess, but
yes, they do. Yep,
they
do.
Answering them. He's saying he's answering them honestly, right?
He literally implied he's giving. Well, whatever. I don't know. Right, we just see this differently. The implication for Hasan saying like, "Oh, I could have answered it this way, but I decided to just come out and say I hate Trump." Unless they specifically ask you who did you support in the election, why you don't have to volunteer that. Just give them, oh, this is what I do for a job. Like, why would you volunteer that you hate Donald Trump? I don't know. Did I miss here? Did they ask him first? Like, who did you vote for? I don't know. I think it's cringe.
So I guess maybe your honest answers would point to different questions. I'm not saying that there's like a prescript that doesn't change according to your answers, but he's not saying that he's trying to put them in a more political lens. He says he's being honest and open about everything and seeing what they're trying to get at, given his honest answers. But thank you for the super chat.
Feel too routine. And basically, my big fear from the entire situation was like, if they were to ask for my phone, not that there's anything incriminating on my phone, but I don't want the federal government inside of my phone beyond beyond all of the
turn off your biometrics, bro.
Times where they probably have been engaging in like warrantless surveillance on my phone or whatever like, it's not your business. You know what I mean? It's none of your business. It's a goddamn free country. Like, there's privacy laws for this kind. So for those of you who don't know, by the way, they can't actually unlock your phone, but if you have biometrics on your phone, they could technically use that and put the phone to your face and unlock it that way. So just so you know, they could technically do that. Okay. They could technically do that, but there's a trick. Either you get a burner phone when you're traveling internationally, or if you have your regular phone, you can just do a passcode by either canceling biometrics, or if you forgot to cancel biometrics, like your Face ID, what you can do is click it 5 times. If you click hold 5 times in a row, it will actually...
If they preemptively decided to question this man, why would they send in someone that Hasan admits to be someone that's cordial and nice to deal with?
True.
Maybe so they can try to get more damning admissions.
And they did get more damning admissions. He said he hated Donald Trump, but they didn't do anything with it.
By having is that absurd?
Oh my God.
Maybe they send in the nice Arab man to try to get admissions.
And and again, like we could theorize that, right? That actually wouldn't even surprise me if that was the case, if they get people that look like or seem more like the type of person they're questioning. But then the question would be, well, what happened when they did that? And the answer is nothing happened. Even when Hasan did admit the more radical stuff, it seems like nobody gave a fuck.
Oh, the good cop, bad cop routine? Not exactly. Never start with the head. The victims gets all fuzzy. Yeah, so like I don't really read into that. I think that their policy of the Trump immigration officers down to the man, or at least the policy has been enacted by individual agents, is to discriminate on the basis of First Amendment activities. Given that prior, right? Given that prior, what do you think is more likely? That Hasan Piker was randomly stopped and asked these questions, or that someone during the global entry process flagged him because they Googled his name and they used the same techniques that they're using against all these people, the AIs to search the Google, their history and stuff, and that they're acting pursuant to the pro-Israel policy? Which of those to you sounds more plausible?
That's crazy if you think that the more plausible thing is the latter versus the former. Why would they grant him global entry then? Why would they even grant him that program that he admitted he just recently applied for? Wouldn't they just reject that full stop? Or wouldn't they pull him aside and actually like seize his devices or do something far more intrusive than what sounds like 10 minutes of questioning in the pull aside room?
Now, this was a completely random stop where they asked those questions, or perhaps that when he did the global entry thing, they had already flagged him as, using their tools that they're using to stop people who are like writing op-eds and to deny like hundreds and hundreds of student visas on the basis of Israel views. Which do you think is more likely? This is cucked? What's cucked about this? What do you think? What's more likely? I'm just being honest. And they very politely only took 30 minutes. Okay, then maybe they only took 30 minutes. Maybe he's a fucking liar about that. But I don't think that we should be downplaying what the administration is doing. I think we should be upplaying it.
I actually really super disagree with that. I think that when it comes to people like Abrego Garcia, or when it comes to some of the actions that this administration has taken, I think that they are like, I would say, over the line, such that you are in territory where you can basically justify like a full-on fucking rebellion. I think that we've hit that point with parts of what this Trump administration is doing. But I worry that you start to lose some of the moral justification for that if we go back to the being unhinged about every single little thing. I think it is important to choose your fights, but...
Neither. He wasn't stopped at all. He was stopped. This is a stop. The government admits he was stopped.
Yeah, but we have no evidence that it was like targeted or something.
He was stopped. They would mess with him more if he was targeted?
Yeah.
This is not the online political person, not the only. Yeah. I mean, like, you guys are, think about how much what your hate is doing to you, right?
Oh my God.
What your hate is doing to you is now you're actually downplaying the regime, right? The regime that has showed that it's willing to infringe on all Americans' First Amendment rights. It is canceling student visas by the 100.
Like, this is a regime that enacted the Alien Enemies Act to deport every Venezuelan, lied about us being at war with Venezuela in order to do these deportations, has thrown people into an actual fucking labor camp, right? This regime is doing unhinged shit. And they also granted global entry to a guy and then pulled him over and asked him 20 minutes worth of questions and then sent him along his way. That's part of the harassment campaign? No, what? If they were targeting him, we would expect to see at least in the same level or classification or something of the unhinged actions that this admin has taken towards people here with anti-deportation orders, towards people here on student visas, towards a million other things. It's just like, but whatever. I don't know.
Because of pro-Israel views. It is saying that we don't want people who are pro-terrorists to come into the country. This officer asks him about those views, asks him about Trump, and you guys all say, must be a massive fucking coincidence. I don't think so.
It's not a coincidence. His job is a political commentator, and they're asking questions about his fucking job. No shit. What kind of and not only that, he literally traveled out of the country for stuff related to his job. What would you expect them to ask? What kinds of questions would you expect?
That's not going to be my baseline assumption given my priors.
He's basically claiming they targeted Hasan. He's just running with the assumption that Hasan was like literally targeted for questioning, but.
And the question is, which do you think is more likely? Not that I can establish it beyond 100%, but which do you think is more likely given the pattern and practice of this government?
I haven't seen this government do anything subtle. I don't even know if Trump knows what the word subtle means. I think if they wanted to harass people at these ports of entry, or if they wanted to harass streamers, YouTubers, I think we wouldn't even have to. We wouldn't be questioning whether or not they're trying to. Trump would literally be bragging about it. He would be on the news saying, "Yeah, I am harassing these people. Hell yeah, I'm keeping America safe by harassing." He would literally be bragging about it.
But what's BS about this story, other than perhaps the amount of time? Even if he was flagged, they didn't treat him any differently than regular. That's preposterous, Bleak. If he was flagged, number one, if he was flagged by itself, it's a problem. On the basis of his first.
We don't even know if he was like flagged for a Viewpoint thing. Why are we assuming that that's the case?
If he was flagged, number one, if he was flagged by itself, it's a problem. On the basis of his First Amendment views, in my opinion.
We have no idea if that's the case, though. We don't know that. There's zero evidence presented for that. And we know that this was also his first time traveling back to the country with global entry, which gives us reason to believe it could have been for another thing as well. And if he was flagged for his Viewpoint, why would he have even been granted? Why did he pass the global entry interview? Why did they even let him have that then?
Yeah. Whether or not it's a First Amendment deprivation or not, I can't tell you that. I think it probably is in terms of the wide-scaling policy. But asking questions about political views, people have been stopped before in the chat. Have you been asked about your views on Trump or international war?
I don't think they do jobs that are involving politics.
It was just random screening.
It's not random. Okay. It's about his job or I don't know, bros. Who knows?
Listen, I'm fair and balanced. The thing is, you guys know that I'm fair, and you have to start getting it into your heads that I'm balanced as well. And I am just going to tell you straight up, some of y'all have haterade. Do we have evidence he had global entry before this? If not, it's possible it's enrollment on arrival. I mean, even if it's enrollment on arrival, right? First of all, he said he was granted global entry. And so maybe he's like mistaken about that, and he was just granted an interview. But having recently gone through
Why are you doing this? I don't like how you're rephrasing questions. Asking about Trump and political views and asking about his job as a political commentator are not equivalent. Of course, if you give any information about what you do, they're going to probe and ask you questions about what you do. In this case, it was politics. So they're probably asking him questions related to, especially because you know that Hasan, and he basically said that he volunteered the information up, right? You know that he's yapping hardcore. He basically admits it. And he says, "Oh yeah, I wanted to push the boundaries." Of course. I think the only thing that he admitted or that he said straight up is that they asked him what kind of politics he covered, which is fair. That's a totally fair question. I do plumbing. What kind of plumbing do you do? Where do you plumb at? What do you think about whatever plumbing stuff? But he said political commentary. So, of course, I'm going to ask questions about this.
Global entry process myself. I think it would be pretty difficult unless you're very, very dumb to confuse whether or not you've already had a global entry interview or not. And I think you'd have to be pretty dumb to realize you have not had a global entry interview yet.
We don't even know if Hasan did, though. Hasan literally, you talk about being dumb. He went to his first global entry interview without his passport, and they didn't even let him do it. So, I mean, like, but whatever.
And that this was your global entry interview. And you can just ask him, right? Did you have your global entry card? Was it sent to you? But even if it was that this was his global entry interview, why are they asking about Trump in a global entry interview? He is dumb. All right. Hate for Hasan overrode the hate for Trump MAGA. Do we always forget that amendment is like this? Yeah, WP school. Yeah, I know. I'm being consistent. I'm being consistent. He was conditionally approved. No, I understand the process. You get pre-cleared, and then you have to have an interview. So he was conditionally. So if that's what he's saying, then he was conditionally approved, and this is his global entry interview. But that's not what is being said by the government either, right? The government said this is a routine stop, right? So
I doubt the government actually pulled the fucking file on this. I think they saw the story and they just like spurred out and was like, oh, this was routine. I seriously doubt they pulled out or pulled up like the individual fucking account order. Because I think if they did, they probably would have published something on it. It seemed like just a stock response from some fucking loser on Twitter, the head of, was it DHS or whatever? Like,
government isn't claiming this is a global entry interview, right? Wait, let's debunk this right now.
He's going to pull up her tweet to prove this.
We're going to debunk this right the fuck now.
I don't really think it does, but.
Because the government tweeted about this. Oh my God. According to BBC,
BBC, get it.
they said it was a routine inspection. So guess what? A routine inspection is not a global entry interview.
Well, I mean, there's really the truthful answer is there's just not enough information. We don't really know, right? I mean, it could be a routine global entry or routine. It could be. I mean, theoretically, depending on how you read it, but we don't really know.
Agreed? Who disagrees with that?
I'd be shocked if they legitimately like pulled the file on this to see what happened. I would be shocked if they actually did that, but it's not impossible. But I would just be very surprised.
Okay, listen. Everyone I know after getting global entry on their first re-entry, they have been interviewed. That doesn't mean that it is, first of all, we need to know whether that's true as a policy matter, in which case, show it, that it's not just your friends, the people you know. I don't know, that's not a representative sample. But secondly, that's not your global entry interview then. Your global entry interview is the interview that gets you global entry.
True.
And so people are equivocating on what the global entry interview is. Jesus Christ. I have never had so much haterade in the chat.
God.
People like unable to, in my opinion, see straight. That's just my opinion right now. Maybe I could be completely cooked on this. It's possible. But you guys have criminal levels of blinders on right now.
People keep talking about FOIA requests. I don't know. FOIA requested then. I don't know why you keep asking. I don't have a FOIA request. I haven't done a FOIA request on this. I don't know if these be available on FOIA requests. I don't know the court on this. I don't know why you keep asking about this. Then do one. Go do one. Jesus.
FOIA the transcript. You should. I don't know if there's a transcript. Probably not. But I'm a lawbreaker. Little laws. Isn't the interview required by global entry routine? You have to have an interview. Typically, people have that in the United States before their flight. But the government said it was a routine inspection.
I can't believe he's putting so much stock into this. He's making the same error when people are saying that, like, oh, we know that Brego Garcia was an MS-13 gang member. That's what the court ruled. That was a statement at a bond hearing. This is a random fucking tweet in response to a story on social media. There was no evidence or any. But, well, okay, I guess.
Now, if everyone who was first granted global entry is given that interview on returning back, but then you should quite simply be able to show the policy, or quite simply be able to point to the overriding pattern and practice, other than, oh, my friends all did it. He's known to blab about stuff not relevant to the prompt when he feels on the back foot. Would you grant the chance he blabbed rather than was pressed? I think it's more likely that he was flagged because of his views on Gaza, on Israel, on Trump, because that's what the government is doing with other people of influence, with green card holders, with student visa holders. And so I do think that the more likely outcome is that something about this arrangement, something about this stop, or the questions relate to a flag. I think that is more likely than Hasan bringing it about himself.
Hasan literally says, it's just crazy. Hasan is literally saying, like, yeah, I wanted to see how far I could take it. That's just wild to me.
I actually do think it's more likely that this is in accord with the policy we're seeing all over the country. I think that's more likely. That's just me, though. That's just me. How the interview went is iffy. Oh my God. What can I say? What can I say except you're welcome? All right, let's just watch one more minute of this and we'll go to the oral arguments because I'm rustling some jimmies.
Actually disable Face ID, and it will force you to put your passcode in. And because there are laws against the agents not being able to force you to put your passcode in, they can't actually access your phone like that. Now, there's different methods.
Could have told them to pound sand, answer nothing. How badly could they have screwed him over? Love the show. Yeah, you could have just said nothing. I probably would say nothing. But that's why he's saying, like, I was letting them.
Piso says he's done law for, like, immigration stuff. I mean, I gotta look it up. Maybe I am super mistaken, but my understanding is you don't have the option to just say nothing when you're at the border. You have to answer these questions. I don't think you have the privilege of being like, oh, I'm not going to incriminate. Like you're at the border. I think you have to answer questions related to what you were doing and everything. It's not like I'm not going to self-incriminate. That's what I've always been told. That's my understanding. But
I was being honest and answering questions, not to distort what the questions were, but to see what they were genuinely asking. That's what he says. I'm not backing down on Hasan clout farming off the anxiety of the Trump administration, but I don't blame people who are jumping on this. Lying about the timeline is very cynical. I think if he's lying about the timeline, it is cynical. I just don't think we should downplay that this happened. I think we should upplay that this is happening, right? Shouldn't we upplay the criminal?
Okay, I don't think you guys understand the difference. That's okay. That's okay. That's good. We can learn about our rights here. So somebody linked something from the ACLU website saying, religious and political beliefs and associations are protected by the First Amendment. Customs officers have sometimes... Oh, you didn't even quote the right part, you fucking retard, or you just hoped I wouldn't click in and read it. Have sometimes asked travelers about their religious affiliation, religious practices, association with religious institutions, and political opinions. The travelers targeted for such questioning have often been Muslim. Questioning individuals about their religious and political beliefs, associations, and practices can infringe upon rights guaranteed by the Constitution and federal law. These rights are not surrendered at the border. If you are a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident, you do not have to answer questions about your religious beliefs and practices or political opinions, and you cannot be denied entry to the United States for declining to answer such questions. If you are being asked a question by a cop, okay, and this would apply to an ordinary cop or at the border, you don't necessarily have to answer the question. But if you decide to volunteer an answer and then you get fucked because you're starting to volunteer too much information and then they can get you on something else, then that's on you. But they can ask you questions that you don't have to answer. That's the same for police officers. That's the same for feds. That's the same for people at the border. Like, they can ask you basically, my understanding is they can basically ask you whatever you want. You can say, oh, I don't really feel comfortable answering that. And now if they push you, or now if they rush you, well, now you have a big problem. But if you volunteer the information yourself like a retard, then that's on you. There's no violation there. If you are if customs officers persist in asking you such questions, you can request to see a supervisor. If you are a non-citizen, visa holder, or visitor, you may decline to answer general questions about religious beliefs and political opinions, but doing so may lead to delay or additional questioning or possibly denial of your entry into the country. That's if you're a green card holder or a visa holder. If you're a non-citizen, visa holder, or visitor. Sorry, visa holder or visitor.
Regime and their authoritarian actions, shouldn't we do that?
LOL, Destiny actually changing the goalpost. You just said he had to answer. I said you can't just say nothing when you go to the border. You can't just not answer any questions ever. You can't, when they go like, what's your job? You can't go, I'm not going to answer actually. I'm going to sit here and wait for my lawyer. I guess you could, I don't know if you could ask for one. You have to participate in the process. You can't just sit there and say no and then wait for them to release you. They can hold you there indefinitely or deny you entry into the country. You have to participate. That doesn't mean you have to answer every single question. Or if you feel like some questions are infringing on your rights or whatever, then you have the right to, I guess, according to the ACLU, ask for supervisor or whatever. But you have to participate in the process. You can't just say I'm a sovereign citizen. I'm not going to answer any questions. Let me in.
God damn, guys. If this was any other person, yes. You guys just despise Hasan. I understand. Like, you know, I get it. I get it. But I'm fair and balanced in the sense that I'm going to look at a situation. I'm going to try to be objective. I'm going to say, given the choice between those two outcomes, do I think that it's more likely that this was a flagged stop or flagged questioning? Yes. I don't think it was Hasan prompted improper questioning on First Amendment stuff. I don't think this was his initial global entry interview. And I think what the Trump administration is doing, because I think it's more likely that they did that, is wrong. And I'm going to upplay what the criminal regime is doing over this doofus.
Of how they can access your phone. From what I understand, they can also put it on a computer and just like plug it into a machine, and the machine just basically takes all of the information in your phone. So it is what it is. I don't know if you can actually do that if your phone is on, but
all right, now it's just yapping. All right.
Is there a single shred of evidence he was targeted? No, nothing. It's all conjecture or guesses, but